Tulrash looked at the human in disbelief. You're actually coming to help us? Of course. That's what allies do. All of the other allies of the unified Sherlock administration had ignored their request for help and abandoned its largest colony, blanash II, to its inevitable doom. This was understandable, but said by the Gulthanilchi, blanash II was considered a lost cause. The hyper-mechanized insectoid race didn't often stray outside its borders, but when it did, it always went badly for whomever was in their sights. The Gulthanilchi had one of, if not the largest and most capable militaries in the galaxy. Their navy was capable of waging war on multiple fronts against multiple star nations, and their army's foot soldiers put other races' elite soldiers to shame. It was lucky for the galaxy that, most of the time, the Gulthanilchi were content to stay in their quadrant of space. However, when the Gulthanilchi did venture out into the wider galaxy, whether to address a perceived slight, acquire resources, or simply keep their scything limbs sharp, all other star nations steered incredibly clear of the conflict. Hence, Tulrash's surprise at the offer of help. But he'd be a fool not to take up the offer of help. Perhaps the two nations together, with a healthy dose of luck, could somehow evacuate what civilians remained on blanash II. A few hours later, in a secure station deep in Tshirt territory, Ashrank stood above the holoprojected display of the blanash system across from the two human representatives. Okay, so I'm afraid to admit that we don't have a lot of actionable intel on the Gulthanilchi. Keith, what do you Caesars have? Keith Hallingstead, Grand Admiral of the Core Systems of Earth's 7th Fleet, stared at his counterpart. Ashrank got the distinct feeling that Keith didn't like the other human's nickname for the CSE. I'm not surprised to hear that your empire has produced nothing useful. Tell me, why is the Eni here again? Now it was Hallard Malpente's turn to bristle. Commander of the Empire of New Earth's 4th Fleet, he had arrived just minutes after Keith. The unified Sherlock administration may have brokered the peace that ended the war between these two human empires, but Ashrank sensed that those efforts might be undone if he didn't get focused back on the reason both men were here in the first place. Gentlemen, thank you both for coming to our aid. I believe I can provide all the data you will need for strategic coordination. Now, if you will take a look at the holoprojector. The Gulthanilchi had deployed to the blanash system in an unconventional formation and with extreme numbers. Normally when attempting to take a system, the attacker would bring a single formation of 3 to 5 fleets and a few armies and troop carriers. After sweeping defences, one fleet would remain over the target world with the troop carriers, while the remaining fleets would box in the hyperlane to intercept reinforcements. This time, the Gulthanilchi had deployed 2 full war hosts to the modestly sized blanash system. A full 7 fleets boxed in the hyperlane exit, 4 facing inwards, 3 covering their rear, and another 3 fleets sat with the troop carriers. Clearly a reaction to the advent of jump drive technology, which the E&E had so devastatingly used against the Voluntary Empire 5 years prior. The Gulthanilchi ground invasion force was significantly more normal fare. 3 armies, 750,000 soldiers total. One army was more than enough to take the world within the year, so Ashrank predicted that blanash II would fall within the next 90 cycles. To oppose them, Ashrank had 4 Chinook fleets, all hyperlane bound, and 2 human fleets of unknown capability, but apparently both jump drive capable. Nowhere near enough firepower. The E&E also had an attachment of 100,000 drop troops. Hallard called them stormtroopers and pioneers interchangeably, and the CSE fleet had an attachment of 250,000 devil dogs, whatever that meant. Ashrank had seen a human stock before, fluffy and loud little thing in an ambassador's purse, so he wasn't filled with confidence. Despite the bleak outlook, the 2 humans absorbed the information with good humour. Keith looked up from his data slate and asked, "So, Ashrank, why exactly is it that the Gulthanilchi armies are so feared? I've only heard disjointed stories about their capabilities, and I'd like to have a better picture of what I'm sending my boys up against." Ashrank sighed. Clearly, this human was underestimating the enemy, or overestimating his capabilities. Humans are robust, sure, but too slow. Far too slow. Computer, access the file on Gulthanilchi warriors. Classification Authorization Alpha Cross-check voice print. The computer chimed. Voice print confirmed. All data available. The distinct form of a Golichi warrior replaced the blanash system of the holodisplay. Looks a bit like a giant 4-armed praying mantis, doesn't it? Hallard interjected. The computer continued. Race, Golichi. Classification, warrior class. Golichi evolved in an oxygen-dense world, allowing the development of a large exoskeleton invertebrates without a dedicated respiratory system. Upon colonizing other worlds, the Golichi found that the oxygen density outside of their home system was insufficient. This pushed them to develop intense cybernetics to mimic organic respiratory activity. Current intel suggests that Golichi warriors are as much as 60% cybernetic. These cybernetics mesh well with their dispersed nervous system and fast twitch muscles, allowing them a range of incredibly quick movement. Their carapaces are also enhanced with laser-resistant compounds, making them practically impervious to squad-portable laser weapons. The average Golichi warrior carries a plasma-resistant shield and monomolecular blade in its primary arms, while its secondary arms carry a small ballistic shield and a plasma blaster. Their enhanced reflexes and extreme speed allow them to intercept both plasma blasts and conventional ballistic weapons. No race to date has been able to best them in hand-to-hand combat. They are effectively impervious to any and all small arms. Keith crossed his arms, clearly toying with options in his mind. Hallard turned to Ashrak. Have you tried rapid-fire ballistic weapons, like machine guns? Others have. They're quick enough to notice changes in the chain of spray, so only uncontrolled sprays even have a chance of catching them. It's down to luck. Uncontrolled sprays? Keith asked, a spark of hope in his eyes. Yes, but like I said, that's up to dumb luck. I think we can do it. We'll have to break out an ancient weapon, but the Devil Dogs can do it. Hallard, do you think the E&E 4th can pull their orbiting fleets out of position? We can buy you about 2 hours. I only need to get my drop pods out, 30 minutes in and out. We'll send down some stable sub-dimension munitions dumps. Should buy the world enough time for our reinforcements to get there. Ashrak, startled. Wait, reinforcements? The humans laughed in sync. Disturbing. What? Did you think we were all the help you got? Hallard asked. There's a combined human force mustering in the independent colonies between CSE and E&E. You'll have 12 full human fleets here inside of 6 months. That's about 180 of your cycles. We're just here to make sure the world holds until then. Ashrak felt faint. Maybe we actually stand a chance, if we can somehow double the life expectancy of blanash 2. Okay, so what do you need from me? The next day, on blanash 2, outside of Krishmelt, the planet's largest city. Murloc stared into the orange sky with bleary eyes. He thought he saw flashes of space combat, but there was no way to be certain. He wasn't sure the last time he saw a clear sky. He also wasn't sure the last time he slept more than a few hours. Sometime before the Golichi invasion, so at least 10 cycles ago. Wait, they only invaded 10 cycles ago? Damn. At this rate, it'll be all over soon. Murloc blinked as he saw streaks start to appear in the morning sky. Meteors? No, too bright. Dropships? Murloc grabbed his hand blaster and ran for his post, primary gunner on the sector's anti-air battery. As he ran, sirens began their shrieking whines, and other soldiers started towards their posts. He hopped into his seat, booted up the targeting system, and brought his guns to bear on the lead ship. Just a few more sighs, and he would be in range. Now! Murloc pulled the trigger, but before any plasma flew clear, his trigger went dead. His targeter flashed a warning. Friendly ship detected. Encrypted credential match. The battery's computer also sang out in its soothing way. Do not fire. Friendly craft detected. Do not fire. Friendly craft detected. Do not fire. Murloc pulled his targeter off the incoming dropship, ending the friendly fire alarm. Was it a trick from the Golichi? Were we actually getting reinforced? Only one way to find out. Murloc stepped out of his post, staring at the incoming streaks with dozens of his fellow soldiers. For the first time in what felt like forever, they dared to hope. The waiting stretched into minutes as the dropships got closer. Murloc's heart sank as he realized they weren't the right shape, and he couldn't hear the distinctive whine of Trilek's dropships. But they clearly weren't Golichi either. Who was coming? After what seemed like an eternity of waiting and guessing, the drop pod, slammed into the ground. Its doors flew off, propelled by explosive bolts. Dark bipedal shapes fanned out, guns raised. They relaxed slightly when they saw the distinctive forms of Chinook soldiers. Colonel Robert Glider, 45th Regiment, Core Systems of Earth Marines, the human saluted. He was the only soldier not carrying a long gun, just a blaster on his hip. Where are the reinforcements? Who's the commanding officer here? Murloc watched as the human walked off with his commander. He didn't know how to feel. He was excited to be reinforced, of course, but what good would that do? How useful were these humans? They had brought ballistic weapons, outdated ones it looked like. Perhaps they were a penal regiment sent to die? He charged over to the closest human. The soldier was digging a hole behind the energy shield. His gun lay on the ground beside him. What are you doing here? Digging a foxhole, can't you see that? You're digging a hole behind the energy shield. What good is that? Shields are nice, but up between you and the foe is better. Says who? Experience. Murloc saw humans up and down the shield line also digging holes. I'm Murloc, gunnery officer, 2nd class. Murloc shook his primary appendage as a form of greeting. Brandon Waif, Corporal, Easy Company, 2nd Battalion, 45th CSE Marines. He barely looked up from his digging. I don't know what that means. It means I'm here to kill bad guys. With that old thing? Murloc gestured vaguely at the gun on the ground. This old thing has probably killed more people than your fancy energy weapons, I bet. Lieutenant Clure says one side in Earth's First World War tried to ban this kind of gun. Called it a Warcrime stick. Sure. I hope it works out for you. Murloc didn't know how to handle this human, so he beat a hasty retreat to his post. Barely an hour later, systems detected a mass of Glanichi APCs approaching. Tank battles were not a Glanichi strong suit. APCs got the warriors in close, where they could close for the kill. Their main weapon was a laser, useless against enemy armor, but extremely effective against the energy shield. The average Glanichi warrior was more than a match for enemy armor, so committing tanks to this fight would just be a waste of lives. Better to drop the shields and try blasting the APCs before they closed. The sector CEO highlighted the lead Glanichi APC for targeting. Tough vehicles, but maybe concentrated fire could bring it down. Murloc ensured his anti-air battery was on ground fire mode, and opened fire. The Glanichi APCs were practically on the front line now. Murloc counted 5 wrecked APCs, up to 60 dead Glanichi warriors. A noble effort. Then again, the attack on this sector consisted of over 300 APCs. Well, over 3,500 Glanichi were about to flood into the sector. Facing them, 1,271 Chinook planetary defense forces, far from elite soldiers, and a regiment of human marines. Murloc could be told they numbered about 2,000. Well, at least death by monomolecular blade is supposed to be pretty quick. The enemy was too close to friendly lines to engage with heavy artillery now. Murloc powered down his anti-air battery and set the deadman switch. If he died or flicked the switch, the battery would self-destruct. That way, at least the Glanichi wouldn't be able to use it. Maybe it might even take 1 or 2 of them with it. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Go into the afterlife and get to claim 1 or 2 of the galaxy's best warriors. Might even be enough to make his father proud of his line of work. Murloc double-checked the systems on his blaster. The plasma weapon wasn't likely to be extremely useful, but if he caught a Glanichi off guard, maybe he could get a killing shot in. Definitely more useful than whatever those humans were using. Murloc looked over to the humans, hiding in their holes. No, not holes, a whole trench system. That's actually pretty impressive. It looked like an officer was addressing the troops. Murloc strained to hear what was being said. What makes the grass grow? The human yelled. Blood makes the grass grow. Kill, kill, kill! His troops shouted back. Oh, okay. The first rank of Glanichi APCs started to disgorge their contents. Looked like a few hundred warriors in the first wave. Devil dogs! The humans popped their upper halves over their trenches, taking aim with their guns. As the Glanichi warriors closed, Murloc waited for them to fire. Why weren't they firing? They're wasting precious time. Murloc held his breath. These poor humans were going to get slaughtered. Why weren't they firing? Just as the Gothici were about to reach melee range, the humans began to fire. To Murloc's surprise, there was no pinging shriek of deflected and blocked bullets. Instead, he watched in shock, as Gothici appeared to explode in showers of chitinous bits. Barely any of them actually made it into the trenches. When they did, the Marines pulled back, and continued to hammer at them with the primitive-looking weapons. Just what the hell were these humans using? Combat lasted barely 10 minutes before the Gothici retreated. Dozens of APCs littered the battlefield, unharmed, but with no one to pilot them. At the end of the day, the Gothici dead count was over 1,800, over half of the attacking force. A few dozen humans had been killed, and another few hundred had been wounded. Most of them were missing limbs from near misses by monomolecular swords. Murloc didn't think he could survive a hit like that. No Tshirt had been killed. Murloc hunted down Corporal Waif. The cranky man was leaning against a rock, breathing through some sort of lit tube. What the hell kind of weapon are you using? I thought nothing could get through a Gothici shield. This? It's just a 12k shotgun, loaded with double Lord Buck. Command says they can deflect bullets, but Betty here puts out 9 pellets at once. Can I have one? Sure, we brought another 3 million down with us. I'll show you the supply dump.